The Valorian Empire had ruled the Orion sector for 3,000 years. They had conquered 47 species. They had burned worlds that refused to submit. They had never known defeat. Their fleets were the largest in the known galaxy, and their plasma cannons could melt through any armor. Every species they had ever met had learned to fear them. Admiral Torek stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Dominion's Will. He was old for a Valorian, with gray scales covering his face and scars from 100 battles marking his body. He had personally overseen the destruction of 6 civilizations. He did not know what mercy meant. "Admiral," his tactical officer called out. "We have unregistered vessels emerging from hyperspace near Theta 9. Torek turned to the main display screen. 27 ships appeared on the sensors. They were ugly things, blocky, asymmetrical. They looked like mining barges or cargo haulers, not warships. They had no elegant curves, no intimidating weapons arrays visible on their hulls. They were gray and industrial and boring. "What species?" Torek asked. "Unknown, Admiral. We have no records of these ship designs." Torek felt a small spark of interest. A new species meant new opportunities. New worlds to conquer. New resources to claim. New slaves to put to work in the mines. "Hail them," Torek ordered. "Standard first contact protocol." The communications officer sent the message. It was simple and direct, as all Valorian communications were. "Surrender immediately. Power down your engines. Prepare to be boarded. Resistance will result in annihilation." Torek waited for the response. He expected fear. He expected panic. He expected desperate pleas for mercy. What he got was laughter. On the bridge of the UNES Steadfast, Captain Park Suho leaned back in his chair and laughed. It was not a nervous laugh or a scared laugh. It was genuine amusement. The kind of laugh a person makes when they hear a good joke. His communications officer, Lieutenant Kim Yuna, looked at him with raised eyebrows. "Play it again," Suho said. Yuna played the Valorian message again. The translation software had converted it to Korean, but the meaning was clear. "Surrender or die." Suho laughed again. Around him, the bridge crew began to smile. They had heard messages like this before. Many times. "Lieutenant Yuna," Suho said, "open a channel to our new friends." Yuna nodded and established the connection. "Channel open, Captain." Suho composed himself, though a smile still played at the corners of his mouth. "Valorian vessel. This is Captain Park Suho, of the United Nations Earthship Steadfast. We are a cargo convoy traveling through this sector on peaceful business. We have no hostile intentions toward your empire." He paused, then added, "Would you like to see what we are carrying?" On the Dominion's Will, Admiral Torek stared at the screen. He had just threatened to destroy these ships, and their captain had responded by offering to show him cargo. Either these humans were insane, or they were mocking him. Torek decided it was mockery. His scales flushed dark with anger. "Insolent creatures," he growled. "They dare to laugh at the Valorian Empire?" "Admiral," his tactical officer said carefully, "perhaps we should scan their vessels more thoroughly before—" "No," Torek cut him off. "They need to learn respect. Power all weapons. Target the lead ship." 64 plasma cannons across the Valorian fleet hummed to life. They were beautiful weapons. They had melted through the hulls of battlecruisers. They had turned enemy fleets into clouds of superheated gas. They were the pride of Valorian engineering. "Fire warning shots," Torek commanded. "Disable their engines. Show them what they face." 3 plasma bolts streaked across the void. They were bright blue, burning at temperatures that could melt steel in microseconds. They crossed the distance to the human ship in the blink of an eye. They hit the Steadfast directly. On the human bridge, nobody moved, nobody flinched, nobody even looked concerned. The ship's AI spoke in a calm, almost bored voice. "Impact registered. Armor integrity at 99.7%. Thermal damage negligible. No systems affected. Suho nodded slowly. He had expected something like this. Plasma weapons were common among younger spacefaring species. They were flashy and impressive-looking. They worked well against ships that relied on energy shields. Humans did not use energy shields. His chief engineer, Lee Dongwu, called up from the engine room. His voice was relaxed over the comm system. "Captain, I felt a small vibration. Did something hit us?" "Plasma cannons," Suho replied. "Ah." There was a pause. "Well, it warmed up my coffee. Tell them. Thank you." The bridge crew chuckled. Suho allowed himself another small smile. On the Valorian flagship, there was only silence. Admiral Torek stared at his tactical display. The human ship was still there. It had not exploded. It had not even been damaged. "That is impossible," he whispered. His tactical officer was frantically checking the sensor readings. "Admiral, our scans show their hull is composed of... I do not understand these readings. The density is impossible. The molecular structure is unlike anything in our database." "Fire again," Torek ordered. "Full barrage, all ships." Every Valorian vessel in the fleet opened fire. Hundreds of plasma bolts converged on the human convoy. The space between the two fleets turned bright blue with superheated energy. It was enough firepower to destroy a small moon. The human ships flew through it without slowing down. "Armor integrity across all vessels holding above 98%, Yuna reported calmly. "No casualties. No system damage." Suho sighed. He had hoped to avoid this. He had hoped the Valorians would be different from the others. But they were not. They were aggressive and proud and convinced of their own superiority, just like the 14 other species humanity had encountered who had made the same mistake. "Lieutenant Yuna," he said, "signal all ships. Open cargo bay doors." Yuna sent the order. Across the human convoy, massive doors began to slide open on the hulls of every ship. Inside those cargo bays were not trade goods. Not food or medicine or industrial equipment. Inside those cargo bays were tungsten rods. Each rod was 20 meters long and 2 meters wide. They were fitted with guidance, thrusters, and targeting systems. They were designed for one purpose: to be accelerated to a significant fraction of the speed of light and dropped onto planets. They were called kinetic bombardment weapons. They could crack continents. They could boil oceans. They could end civilizations. "Open a channel," Suho ordered. Yuna complied. Suho spoke clearly and without anger. "Valorian vessel, I will say this once. We are not a cargo convoy. We are not merchants. We are a deterrent fleet of the United Nations of Earth. These ships carry enough kinetic ordnance to reduce your homeworld to rubble." He let that sink in for a moment. "We do not want war. We came here to establish trade relations with your empire. But if you fire on us again, we will respond. And I promise you, Admiral, you will not like our response." Closed eater. "I see. Trade. Problem. We're." On the Dominion's will, Admiral Torek looked at his tactical display. It had updated. Each human ship was now classified with a small symbol he had never seen before in his long career. It was the symbol for an extinction-level threat. 27 extinction-level threats, floating calmly in space, their cargo bays open, their weapons visible. And on the bridge of the lead ship, the human captain was still smiling. Admiral Torek had never felt fear before. He had faced enemies that outnumbered him 10 to 1. He had fought through asteroid fields while his ship burned around him. He had stared death in the face and laughed. But now, looking at those open cargo bays, he felt something cold crawl up his spine. It was not quite fear. Not yet. But it was close. "Admiral," his tactical officer said quietly, "those weapons. If the humans are telling the truth about their capabilities, I know what they are." Torek snapped. He knew about kinetic bombardment. The Valorians had experimented with similar weapons centuries ago. They had abandoned them because they were too destructive, too final. A plasma cannon could disable a ship. A kinetic impactor could destroy a world. He studied the human vessels more carefully now. They were ugly, yes, but he was beginning to understand why. They were not built for beauty. They were not built to intimidate. They were built to survive. Every line of their design spoke of pure, brutal functionality. Get me more information on these humans, Torek ordered. Where did they come from? How long have they been spacefaring? What do we know about their civilization? His intelligence officer worked frantically at his console. We have almost nothing, Admiral. They appear to have originated from a small planet in the outer arm of the galaxy, a world called Earth. They have been traveling between stars for approximately 60 years. 60 years? Torek was surprised. The Valorian Empire had been spacefaring for 3,000 years. These humans were infants, babies, and yet they had built ships that could shrug off plasma cannons like they were insect bites. What else? He demanded. They have encountered 17 other spacefaring species. 14 of those species attempted to conquer them or destroy them. The intelligence officer paused. Those 14 species no longer exist as independent civilizations. The bridge went quiet. Every officer stopped what they were doing and turned to look at the display. Define, no longer exist, Torek said slowly. Some were absorbed into the human government as vassal states. Some were reduced to pre-spaceflight technology. 2 were rendered completely extinct. Torek felt that cold feeling grow stronger. 14 species in 60 years. The Valorians had conquered 47 species in 3,000 years, and they were considered the most aggressive empire in the sector. These humans had a rate of conquest that made the Valorians look peaceful. On the Steadfast, Captain Suho waited patiently. He had given the Valorians a lot to think about. He knew they were probably searching their databases right now, trying to learn everything they could about humanity. They would not find much. Humans had only been in this part of the galaxy for a few months, but they would find enough. Captain, Lieutenant Yuna said, I am receiving a transmission from the Valorian flagship. They are requesting more information about our species. Suho nodded. This was the next step. It always was. First came the threats. Then came the attack. Then came the realization that the attack did not work. And then came the questions. Navigator Choi, Suho said. Please prepare the standard diplomatic package. Full historical summary, military capabilities overview, and cultural introduction. Lieutenant Choi Minji nodded and began compiling the data. She was young for a navigator, but she was very good at her job. She had prepared this package many times before. She knew exactly what to include. Ready, Captain, she said after a few minutes. Send it. The data package streamed across space to the Valorian fleet. It contained everything the aliens would need to understand what they were dealing with. On the Dominion's will, the information began to appear on screens throughout the ship. Officers gathered around displays, reading with growing disbelief. The package started with Earth's history. It was a violent history. Humans had spent most of their existence fighting each other. They had invented increasingly powerful weapons with each generation. Swords, guns, bombs, nuclear weapons. They had fought 2 global wars that had killed hundreds of millions of their own kind. And then they had gone to space. Admiral Torek read about humanity's first encounters with alien life. A species called the Krellians had found Earth 50 years ago. They had demanded surrender. The humans had refused. The Krellians had attacked with a fleet of 200 warships. The battle had lasted 6 hours. At the end, every Krellian ship was destroyed. Earth had lost 11 vessels. After that, humans had become more aggressive. They had decided that the galaxy was dangerous and that they needed to be more dangerous. They had built bigger ships, stronger armor, more powerful weapons. They had developed the kinetic bombardment system that now sat in the cargo bays of Suho's convoy. The data package included battle footage. Torek watched a human fleet engage a species called the Mordathi Collective. The Mordathi had energy shields that could stop any weapon the Valorians possessed. The humans had simply accelerated tungsten rods to relativistic speeds and punched through the shields like they were not there. He watched a human ship ram directly into an enemy battlecruiser, its armored hull tearing through the alien vessel like a knife through paper. He watched a planet burn as kinetic impactors fell from orbit, each one striking with the force of a nuclear bomb. "They are insane," one of his officers whispered. Torek did not respond. He was watching the human tactics carefully. They were brutal, yes, but they were also efficient. The humans did not waste resources. They did not engage in long campaigns. They hit hard and fast and completely. And then, they offered terms. Their terms were surprisingly fair. Species that surrendered quickly were treated well. They were integrated into human trade networks. They were protected by human fleets. They were allowed to keep their cultures and their governments, as long as they did not threaten Earth. It was the species that refused to surrender that suffered. "Admiral," his communications officer called out. "Captain Suho is requesting to speak with you." Directly. Torek straightened his uniform. He needed to be careful now. He needed to think clearly. His pride wanted him to attack again, to prove that the Valorian Empire would not be intimidated by these young upstarts. But his brain told him that attacking would be suicide. "Put him through," Torek said. The human captain appeared on the main screen. He was not physically impressive. He was average height, with black hair and calm eyes. He wore a simple uniform with minimal decorations. He looked like a clerk or a merchant, not a warrior. But Torek had seen the battle footage. He knew what this man was capable of. "Admiral Torek," Suho said politely, "have you had a chance to review our information?" "I have." Torek kept his voice steady. "You have been busy for such a young species. We learned quickly that the galaxy does not reward weakness. So it seems." Torek paused. "You said you came here to establish trade relations. Is that true? Or is that simply what you tell species before you conquer them?" Suho's expression did not change, but there was something sad in his eyes. "Admiral, humanity has no desire to conquer anyone. We want peace. We want trade. We want to exchange knowledge and culture and goods with other species. Every war we have fought has been defensive. We have never fired the first shot. The Krellians would disagree. The Krellians attacked our homeworld without provocation. We responded. That is not conquest. That is survival." Torek considered this. It was possible the human was lying, but the data supported his words. In every conflict humanity had been involved in, they had been attacked first. They had simply been very good at finishing what others started. "Why do you laugh?" Torek asked suddenly. "When we threatened you, when we fired on you, your crew laughed. Why?" Suho smiled slightly. "Because we have seen this before, Admiral. Many times. Powerful species see our ugly ships and assume we are weak. They threaten us. They attack us. They learn they were wrong." He shrugged. "After a while, it becomes almost funny. The same pattern. Over and over. You find the prospect of war amusing? No. We find the arrogance amusing. The assumption that because we do not look dangerous, we are not dangerous." Suho leaned forward slightly. "Admiral, your plasma cannons are impressive weapons. They would be very effective against most species in this galaxy. But we are not most species. We build our ships from alloys forged in the hearts of dying stars. We do not need shields because nothing can penetrate our armor. We laugh because your weapons are not a threat to us. They are an inconvenience." Torek felt his scales flush again, but this time it was not from anger. It was from something closer to shame. He had been arrogant. He had assumed. He had made the same mistake that 14 other species had made. "What do you want from us?" he asked quietly. I told you. Trade, partnership, peace. Suho spread his hands. Humanity has much to offer. Advanced materials, medical technology, agricultural techniques. We also have much to learn. The Valorian Empire has 3,000 years of knowledge we do not possess. We could benefit each other greatly. And if we refuse? Suho's expression grew serious. Then we will leave. We will not attack you. We will not threaten you. But we will remember that the Valorian Empire chose to be our enemy rather than our friend. And if you ever attack us, or any species under our protection, we will respond accordingly. The implication was clear. Torek looked at the tactical display again. 27 extinction-level threats. He had a decision to make. Admiral Torek turned away from the screen and walked to the center of his bridge. His officers watched him silently. They were waiting for orders. They were waiting to see what kind of leader he was. He was asking himself the same question. For 300 years, Torek had served the Valorian Empire. He had risen through the ranks by being aggressive, by being decisive, by never showing weakness. Those qualities had made him an admiral. They had made him a legend. But those same qualities could now get his entire fleet destroyed. Admiral. His second-in-command said carefully, "The High Council should be informed of this situation. This is too important for us to decide alone." Torek nodded slowly. His second was right. This was not a simple border skirmish. This was first contact with a species that could threaten the entire empire. The Council needed to know. Establish a secure channel to Valoria Prime, Torek ordered. Priority Alpha. Get me the High Council immediately. It took several minutes to establish the connection. Valoria Prime was many light-years away, and even with faster-than-light communication, there was a delay. But eventually, the faces of the 12 council members appeared on the screen. They were the most powerful Valorians alive. They controlled the military, the economy, the colonies. They decided who lived and who died. And right now, they all looked very unhappy. Admiral Torek, the council leader said coldly, "We have received your preliminary report. Explain to us how you allowed your fleet to be humiliated by a group of cargo ships." Torek felt a flash of anger but controlled it. "Council leader, these are not cargo ships. They are the most dangerous vessels I have ever encountered. Our plasma cannons did nothing to them. Nothing. Their armor is beyond anything in our database." "Impossible," another council member said. "Our weapons are the finest in the galaxy." "I thought so too." "I was wrong." He transmitted the tactical data to the council. He showed them the sensor readings from his attack. He showed them the complete lack of damage to the human ships. He showed them the kinetic weapons in the cargo bays. "Each of those rods can destroy a city," Torek explained. "They have enough ammunition to reduce Valoria Prime to rubble. And there are only 27 ships in this convoy. Imagine what a full human battle fleet could do." The council members studied the data. Their expressions changed from anger to concern to something approaching fear. They were politicians, not soldiers. But they could read tactical reports. They understood what they were seeing. "What do the humans want?" the council leader asked. "They claim they want trade and peace. They say they have never started a war, only finished them. And you believe them?" Torek considered the question carefully. "I believe they are telling the truth about their history. The data they provided is consistent and detailed. They have fought many wars, but they were always attacked first." He paused. "However, I also believe they would not hesitate to destroy us if we gave them reason to." The council debated among themselves. Some wanted to mobilize the full Valorian fleet and show these humans the true power of the Empire. Others argued that this would be suicide. A few suggested trying to steal human technology through espionage. "We could attack their homeworld," one council member suggested. "Send a fleet to this Earth while they are here. Destroy it before they can respond." "That would be unwise," Torek said immediately. "First, They would certainly have defenses at their homeworld. Second, they have allies. Third, if we attacked their home and failed to destroy it completely, they would retaliate. And based on what I have seen, their retaliation would be extinction level. Then what do you suggest, Admiral? Torek took a deep breath. He was about to say something that went against everything he had believed for 300 years. I suggest we accept their offer. Trade. Partnership. Peace. The council erupted in argument. Some called him a coward. Others called him a traitor. One council member demanded his immediate execution for suggesting surrender. It is not surrender, Torek said firmly. It is strategy. The humans do not want to conquer us. They want to trade with us. If we accept, we gain access to their technology. We learn their weaknesses. We build our strength. And if the time comes, when we can defeat them, we will be ready. This argument made sense to the more practical council members. The Valorians were not just warriors. They were also planners. They thought in terms of centuries, not years. If they could not defeat the humans today, perhaps they could defeat them in 100 years. And if they are lying? The council leader asked. If this talk of trade is just a trick to lower our defenses, then we will be no worse off than we are now. They already have the power to destroy us. Accepting their offer does not make us more vulnerable, but it does give us time. Oh no. The council debated for another hour. Torek waited patiently. He knew this was a difficult decision. The Valorian Empire had never accepted peace with anyone. They conquered, or they destroyed. There was no middle ground. But middle ground was exactly what they needed now. Finally, the council leader raised his hand for silence. We have reached a decision. Admiral Torek, you are ordered to accept the human offer of trade negotiations. You will escort their convoy to Valoria Prime under a banner of truce. You will ensure their safety during the journey. And you will begin formal diplomatic talks upon arrival. Torek bowed his head. Understood, council leader. However, the council leader continued, you will also observe the humans carefully. Learn everything you can about them. Their technology, their culture, their weaknesses. This peace may be temporary. We must be prepared for when it ends. Of course, the connection closed. Torek turned to face his bridge crew. They were looking at him with mixed expressions. Some seemed relieved. Others seemed disappointed. A few looked like they were not sure what to feel. You have your orders, Torek said. Stand down weapons. Raise the banner of truce. Prepare to escort the human convoy to Valoria Prime. Yes, Admiral. Torek walked to the communications console. Open a channel to Captain Suho. The human captain appeared on screen. He looked exactly the same as before. Calm. Patient. Slightly amused. Torek wondered if humans ever showed their true emotions or if they always hid behind those polite smiles. Captain Suho, Torek said formally. The Valorian High Council has considered your offer. We accept. We will escort your convoy to Valoria Prime for formal trade negotiations. Suho nodded. Thank you, Admiral. This is a wise decision. I think our peoples will benefit greatly from partnership. Perhaps, but I want to be clear about something. Torek stepped closer to the screen. I do not trust you. I do not believe that any species accumulates the power you have without intending to use it. Somewhere in your plans, there is conquest. There is domination. You may call it protection or trade or partnership, but I know what it really is. Suho's expression did not change. You are entitled to your suspicions, Admiral. I hope that time will prove them wrong. We will see. Torek straightened. My fleet will take lead position. Your convoy will follow. We will arrive at Valoria Prime in approximately 4 standard days. Do not deviate from the course we provide. Do not scan our planets or our installations. And do not do anything that could be interpreted as hostile. Understood. We will be model guests. See that you are. Torek ended the transmission. He did not feel good about this situation. He did not feel good about escorting potential enemies to his homeworld. But he was a soldier, and he followed orders. And perhaps, if he was lucky, he would learn something that would help the Valorians defeat these humans someday. On the Steadfast, Captain Suho turned away from the screen and let out a slow breath. The tension on the bridge decreased slightly. They had passed the most dangerous moment. The Valorians had chosen negotiation over war. "Well done, everyone," Suho said. "Lieutenant Choi, coordinate with the Valorian fleet for our course to their homeworld. Lieutenant Kim, inform Earth Command that we have successfully established first contact and are proceeding to diplomatic talks. Lieutenant Lee, begin repairs on the hull, scarring from their plasma attack. I want us looking professional when we arrive." His crew acknowledged and went to work. They were efficient and calm. They had done this many times before. Suho sat back in his command chair and allowed himself a moment of quiet satisfaction. Another first contact. Another potential war avoided. Another species that might become a friend instead of an enemy. But he also knew this was only the beginning. Trust would take a long time to build. The Valorians would be watching them carefully, looking for weaknesses, looking for threats. One mistake could undo everything they had accomplished today. He would need to be careful. They all would. The two fleets formed up together and entered hyperspace. On one side were the elegant Valorian warships, all curves and flowing lines. On the other side were the blocky human vessels, all hard angles and brutal functionality. They were heading to the same destination, but they were still very far apart. Suho hoped that would change. He hoped the Valorians would see that humans were not the monsters their history made them appear to be. He hoped that trade and cooperation would lead to genuine friendship, but he also knew that hope was not enough. He would need to prove it. 4 days to Valoria Prime. 4 days to show these aliens that humanity was worthy of trust. It was not much time, but it was a start. The combined fleet traveled through hyperspace for 2 days without incident. The Valorian ships maintained their formation ahead of the human convoy, and the human ships followed at a respectful distance. It was a tense journey. Both sides were watching each other carefully. On the Steadfast, Dr. Han Jisoo spent most of her time in the science lab. She was the convoy's xenobiologist, responsible for studying alien species and helping the crew understand foreign cultures. She had degrees in biology, psychology, and anthropology, and she had participated in 9 first contact missions. The Valorians were fascinating to her. She had been monitoring their communications since the standoff. Not the encrypted military channels, but the regular crew communications that passed between ships. She had learned a lot from listening to how they talked to each other. "Captain," she said over the internal comm, "do you have a moment?" Suho's voice came back immediately. "Go ahead, Doctor. I have been analyzing Valorian behavior patterns. I think I understand them better now. May I share my findings?" "Please do." Jisoo pulled up her notes on her console. "The Valorians are a hierarchical species. Everything in their society is about rank and dominance. They respect power above all else. When Admiral Torek threatened us, he was not just trying to scare us, he was establishing dominance." "We noticed," Suho said dryly. "Yes, but here is the important part. When we did not submit, when we showed that we were more powerful than them, their entire approach changed. They stopped seeing us as prey and started seeing us as equals, or possibly superiors. And that is good? It is complicated." Jisoo frowned at her data. "The Valorians will not try to attack us again because they know they will lose. But they also will not truly trust us. In their culture, anyone with power is a potential threat. They will be constantly watching for signs of weakness. If they ever think they can defeat us, they will try." Suho was quiet for a moment. "So, peace with the Valorians will always be temporary?" "Not necessarily. There is another aspect to their culture. They also value loyalty. Once a Valorian gives their word, they keep it. If we can establish a formal treaty with them, they will honor it. The trick is getting them to give their word in the first place. How do we do that? We need to show them that we are not just powerful, but also honorable. They need to see that we keep our promises. They need to see that we do not take advantage of weakness. Jisoo paused. And it would help if we demonstrated our power in a way that does not threaten them directly. They need to understand what we can do, but they should not feel like we are about to do it to them. Suho considered this advice. It matched his own instincts. The Valorians had backed down because they were afraid. But fear was not a good foundation for a lasting relationship. He needed to turn that fear into respect. "Thank you, Doctor," he said. "That is very helpful." "Of course, Captain." Suho ended the communication and thought about what Jisoo had told him. A demonstration of power that did not threaten the Valorians directly. Something that would show them what humanity could do without making them feel like they were about to be destroyed. An idea began to form in his mind. He called his navigator. "Lieutenant Choi, what celestial bodies are along our route to Valoria Prime?" Minji checked her charts. "Several star systems, Captain. Gas giants, asteroid fields, and a few barren moons. Nothing inhabited." "Any of those barren moons close to our current position?" "Yes, sir. There is a small moon in the system we are passing through now. Approximately 2,000 kilometers in diameter. No atmosphere. No life signs. No strategic value. Perfect." Suho opened a channel to the Valorian flagship. "Admiral Torek, this is Captain Suho. I have a proposal." Torek's face appeared on the screen. He looked suspicious. "What kind of proposal?" "Your people have seen our weapons in our cargo bays, but you have not seen what they can do. I think it would be helpful if we provided a demonstration. There is a barren moon in this system. With your permission, I would like to show you the effect of a single kinetic impactor on a target of that size." Torek's eyes narrowed. "Why would you want to do this?" "Because I believe you are still uncertain about our capabilities. You have seen our data. But data is just numbers. You need to see it for yourself. Once you do, you will understand exactly what humanity can do. And once you understand that, you will also understand why we prefer peace to war." Torek was silent for a long moment. Suho could almost see the calculations happening behind his eyes. Was this a trick? Was the human trying to lure him into a trap? Finally, the Admiral nodded. "Very well. We will observe your demonstration. But if this is some kind of deception, it is not. You have my word. Your word." Torek made a sound that might have been a laugh. "We will see what human words are worth." The two fleets dropped out of hyperspace near the barren moon. It was a dead gray ball of rock, covered in craters from millions of years of asteroid impacts. It had no name, no designation, no importance to anyone. It was about to become very important. "All ships, hold position," Suho ordered. "Weapons Bay 3. Prepare one kinetic impactor for launch. Standard yield. Target the center of the moon." Teen, his weapons officer, Sergeant Oh Tae-hyun, acknowledged the order. "Impactor ready, Captain. Guidance systems locked. Ready to fire on your command." Suho opened a channel to all ships, both human and Valorian. "All vessels, observe the target moon on your sensors. In 30 seconds, we will launch a single kinetic impactor. This is a standard weapon from our arsenal. It is not our most powerful weapon. It is not a special weapon designed for this demonstration. It is simply what we carry on every ship." He let that sink in for a moment. Fire. The tungsten rod launched from the Steadfast. It was not fast at first. It drifted out of the cargo bay almost gently. But then its thrusters fired, and it began to accelerate. Faster and faster. The Valorians tracked it on their sensors, watching the numbers climb. The rod reached 1% of the speed of light. Then 5%. Then 8%. It crossed the distance to the moon in seconds. The impact was visible from space. The rod hit the moon's surface and kept going. It punched through the crust like it was not there. The kinetic energy converted to heat instantly. The temperature at the impact site reached millions of degrees. Rock vaporized. The moon's interior liquefied. A shockwave spread out from the impact point. The surface of the moon cracked like an eggshell. Massive chunks of rock broke away and flew into space. The entire moon shuddered, its structure compromised beyond repair. Within an hour, gravity did the rest. The fractured moon could not hold itself together. It broke apart. Where there had been a solid body 2,000 kilometers across, there was now a cloud of debris, an asteroid field. Rubble, one rod, one shot, one moon destroyed. On the Dominion's will, Admiral Torek stared at his sensors. His bridge was completely silent. Every officer was looking at their displays with expressions of shock and disbelief. That was not their most powerful weapon, one officer whispered. He said it was standard. Torek did not respond. He was doing math in his head. The humans had 27 ships. Each ship probably carried hundreds of those rods. That meant thousands of impactors in this convoy alone, enough to destroy every major installation in the Valorian Empire. Enough to crack every inhabited planet. And this was just a cargo convoy. What did a real human battle fleet carry? Admiral. Suho's voice came over the comm. I hope this demonstration has been informative. As you can see, humanity takes its security very seriously. We have the power to destroy anyone who threatens us. But we do not want to use that power. We would rather trade. We would rather cooperate. We would rather be friends. Torek found his voice. You have made your point, Captain. Good. Then I hope we can proceed to Valoria Prime with a better understanding between us. We are not your enemies, Admiral. We do not want to be. But we will not be your victims either. No. Torek looked at the debris field that had been a moon. No, you certainly will not. He ended the communication and turned to his crew. They were looking at him, waiting for him to say something, waiting for him to make sense of what they had just witnessed. You now understand what we are dealing with, Torek said quietly. These humans are not like any species we have encountered before. They are dangerous beyond anything we have faced. And they are offering us peace. Torek, 1717. He let that sit for a moment. We would be fools to refuse. The two fleets reformed and jumped back into hyperspace. They had 2 more days of travel ahead of them. But the tension had changed. It was no longer the tension of potential enemies watching each other. It was something else. It was the beginning of respect. The combined fleet arrived at Valoria Prime on the morning of the 4th day. It was a beautiful planet. Blue and green and white, with massive cities visible even from orbit. The Valorians had built a great civilization here. Towers of crystal and metal. Transportation networks that spanned continents. Space stations that circled the world. Like a ring of jewels, Captain Suho stood at the main viewport of the Steadfast and looked down at the planet. It reminded him of Earth. Not in the details, but in the feeling. This was a homeworld. A place where a species had grown and learned, and built something worth protecting. He understood why the Valorians had been so aggressive. They had a lot to lose. Captain. Lieutenant Kim Yuna reported. We are receiving landing coordinates from Valorian Control. They have assigned us a diplomatic landing zone outside their capital city. Very good. Inform all ships to maintain orbit. The Steadfast will land alone. I do not want to make them nervous with too many human vessels on their surface. Yes, sir. The Steadfast descended through the atmosphere. It was not a graceful landing. The ship was designed for space, not for atmospheric flight, and it handled like a brick, but the pilot, Lieutenant Park Junho, managed to bring them down safely on the designated landing pad. A delegation was waiting for them. Valorian officials in formal robes, military officers in decorated uniforms, and what appeared to be members of the High Council itself. They looked stiff and formal, and not entirely happy to be there. Suho assembled his landing party. Himself, Dr. Han Jisoo for cultural expertise, Lieutenant Choi Minji for navigation and technical questions, and Sergeant Bae Sojin as security. He wanted a small group, non-threatening, professional. The airlock opened, and they stepped out onto Valorian soil. The air was different here. Thinner than Earth, with a slight metallic taste. The gravity was a bit heavier. The sun was a different color, casting everything in a slightly orange light. It was alien and strange, and Suho loved it. This was why he had joined the fleet. Not for war, not for conquest. For this. For standing on new worlds, and meeting new peoples, and seeing things no human had ever seen before. A Valorian official stepped forward. He was tall and thin, with scales that shimmered in the sunlight. Captain Suho. I am Minister Vren, Coordinator of External Affairs for the Valorian Empire. Welcome to Valoria Prime. Suho bowed slightly, a gesture of respect he had learned was appropriate for Valorian culture. Minister Vren, thank you for receiving us. We are honored to be here. You are the first aliens to set foot on our homeworld in 500 years. The last ones who tried came as invaders. They did not survive the experience. I'm 17 play, and for the 40. The Dawn. Combination. When they did for the 24 of the next Avire. When they dod combination. Or when they dod. Or when the mide. When they dod. We are not invaders. We are guests. And we hope to be friends. Minister Vren studied him with cool eyes. We shall see. They were led through the capital city in a formal procession. The streets had been cleared of regular traffic, and crowds of Valorians lined the route to watch them pass. Some looked curious. Some looked hostile. Most just looked uncertain. Suho kept his expression calm and friendly. He nodded politely to the crowds. He tried to appear non-threatening. He knew that everything he did was being recorded and analyzed. The council chambers were enormous. A vast circular room with a domed ceiling painted with images of Valorian history, conquests and victories, and great leaders from the past 3,000 years. The 12 council members sat on elevated platforms arranged in a semicircle, looking down at the human delegation like judges at a trial. Admiral Torek was there too, standing to one side. He nodded slightly when Suho caught his eye. It was not a friendly gesture, but it was not hostile either. It was acknowledgement. Respect between equals. The council leader spoke first. He was the oldest Valorian Suho had seen, with faded scales and a voice like grinding stone. Captain Suho, your species has made quite an impression on us. Destroying a moon was a particularly dramatic introduction. I apologize if the demonstration was excessive, Suho said. I thought it was important that your people understand our capabilities clearly. Misunderstandings can lead to conflict. I wanted to avoid that. Indeed. The council leader leaned forward. So let us be clear with each other. You have shown us that you can destroy us. Now tell us why we should believe you do not want to. Suho had prepared for this question. He had practiced his answer many times, but now, standing in this chamber, looking at these alien leaders who held the fate of their entire species in their hands, he decided to throw away the prepared speech. He would tell them the truth. Because we have done it before, he said simply. We have destroyed species that attacked us. We have burned worlds and ended civilizations. And every time we did it, we felt the weight of it afterward. The guilt, the loss, the knowledge that we had ended something that could never be replaced. He paused to let that sink in. Humans are good at war. We are very good at it. It is perhaps our greatest talent, and it is also our greatest shame. We have been fighting since before we could write. We have killed billions of our own kind. And we are tired of it. The council members listened in silence. When we went to the stars, we hoped to find friends. We hoped to find species who would trade with us and teach us and learn from us. Instead, we found enemies. Species who saw us as prey, who attacked us without provocation, who tried to conquer us or destroy us. His voice hardened slightly. We survived. We won. But we did not enjoy it. We do not celebrate the species we have defeated. We mourn them. We remember them. And we swear that we will do everything we can to avoid adding more names to that list. He looked directly at the council leader. That is why we came here talking about trade instead of firing weapons. That is why we demonstrated our power on a dead moon instead of your fleet. That is why we offered peace instead of making demands. Because we are tired of war. And because we believe that the Valorian Empire, for all your aggression and pride, is not so different from us. You are protectors of your people. You do what you must to keep them safe. We understand that. We respect that. He spread his hands. We do not ask you to trust us. Trust takes time. We only ask you to give us a chance to earn that trust. Let us trade. Let us exchange knowledge. Let us show you that we can be good neighbors. And if we fail to live up to our promises, you can judge us then. The council chamber was silent for a long moment. The 12 members looked at each other, communicating in glances and small gestures that Suho could not interpret. Finally, the council leader spoke again. You speak well, Captain. Better than most warriors I have met. But words are easy. Actions are what matter. I agree completely. Then let us begin with actions. We will establish a formal trade agreement between our peoples. Limited at first. Specific goods, specific quantities, specific ports of exchange. If that goes well, we will expand. If it goes poorly. He did not need to finish the sentence. That is fair, Suho said. We accept. Good. The council leader almost smiled. Perhaps you humans are not as barbaric as your history suggests. We are trying to be better than our history. Are we not all? The formal part of the meeting ended. Suho and his team were escorted to guest quarters to rest, while Valorian officials prepared the initial trade documents. They would be on Valoria Prime for several more days, negotiating details and working out logistics. That evening, Lieutenant Bei Seojin organized a small celebration in their quarters. Nothing fancy. Just some food from their ship's stores and a few bottles of rice wine that someone had smuggled aboard. To another successful first contact, Sojin said, raising her glass. The others joined the toast. They drank and talked and laughed quietly, releasing the tension of the past several days. Dr. Han Jisoo discussed her observations about Valorian culture. Lieutenant Choi Minji complained about how difficult the Valorian number system was to work with. Sergeant Oh Tae-hyun told a joke about plasma cannons that made everyone groan. Suho participated, but his mind was elsewhere. He was thinking about the council leader's words, about being better than their history. Later, alone in his quarters, he recorded his official log. He spoke about the mission, the negotiations, the current status of relations with the Valorian Empire, all the official things that needed to be documented. But then he added a personal note. We encountered the Valorians, expecting to be attacked. We were not disappointed. They threatened us. They fired on us. They demanded our surrender. It was the same pattern we have seen 16 times before. He paused. But it ended differently this time. Not because we were stronger, although we were. Not because we scared them, although we did. It ended differently because we gave them a choice. War or peace. Destruction or trade. And they chose peace. He thought about the crowds watching their procession through the city. Curious faces. Uncertain faces. I do not know if the Valorians will ever truly trust us. Their culture is built on dominance and power. They will always be watching for weakness. They will always be calculating whether they can defeat us. He allowed himself a small smile. But they chose peace. That is a start. And maybe, in 100 years, their children will look at humans and see partners instead of threats. Maybe they will forget that we once pointed enough weapons at each other to destroy worlds. He ended the recording and sat in silence for a while. Somewhere out there, another species was detecting human ships for the first time. Somewhere out there, another admiral was preparing to send demands for surrender. And somewhere out there, another human captain was preparing to laugh. The cycle would continue. But maybe. Suho turned off the light and allowed himself to hope.